A jewelry store owner is speaking out after fending off thieves who were attempting to rob his store. It happened back in October in Markham, with surveillance video showing the store owner making the quick decision to fight off the would-be thieves, an action that police generally advise against. Alicia Song reports.
3 masked men enter a jewelry store in Markham's Markville shopping center, smashing one of the display cases with a hammer. One holds a shopping bag waiting to collect the loot, but not before owner Jerry Sarani comes running out from behind his workbench.
As soon as it happened, right away, I did not even think about it. I just got up and says, no, it's not gonna happen.
He's wielding a plastic broom.
It was just instinct.
And that's all it took. Sarani appears to get in a couple of strikes on one of the robber's arms, the one holding the hammer, and they all scurry.
I guess when they saw that, they just, they were not expecting it either.
When it comes to robberies, police advise not to fight back because it risks making the situation worse.
Anytime that somebody is trying to intervene or to thwart these criminals, there's always the potential for the escalation of violence. And the most important thing that we want is everyone to be safe.
I asked Sarani how he feels about that, since in his case, the thieves backed down.
I understand that. It's the main thing, it's the safety. They say the safety. And I know not everybody will be able to do that. But if you don't do nothing, it's just going to keep happening.
Sarani now locks the doors between customers.
We just lock the door. We watch everybody coming in and out. Is it going to happen now or when is it going to happen?
The suspects are still at large. He didn't get a good look at them because of the masks, but
they looked young, really, I would say probably 16, 17 years old.
That's common among the recent jewelry store robberies, which more than doubled in the GTA in the last year. Police say the suspects are often young, re-offenders caught up in organized crime. Police arrested 6 people for this smash and grab a month ago, also in the Markville shopping center. No one was older than 19. The youngest suspect was just 15 years old. 4 of them were out on bail at the time. York Regional Police say they're collaborating with Toronto and Peel Police. And security footage like Sarani's is important evidence.
Going back and comparing the video from multiple incidents allow us to link them together and start to understand the networks of these criminal organizations that are committing any kind of theft.
Until something's done, store owners like Sarani feel like sitting ducks.
I think you will see a lot of places probably going to be closing down.
It's not fair that people are operating their business in fear at this point.
No. Not business, anything you cannot do in fear.
Alicia Song, CBC News, Toronto.
Another speed camera in Toronto has been chopped down and stolen. It follows several similar incidents over the last few months, a pattern that the city says will lead to more dangerous conditions for everyone on the road. Dale Manukduk has this story.
This automated speed enforcement camera was reinstalled after being chopped down to the stump and stolen just a few days ago. It's located at Avenue Road, just south of St. Clair.
I know Avenue Road is a popular street for people with sports cars to race and speed along, but I know the city is trying to do a lot of things to try and reduce the speed.
The city says it condemns any incident of theft or vandalism of speed cameras, and doing so allows dangerous speeding to occur, making it less safe for all road users. Parkside Drive has been the street with the most speeding infractions. Just last month, its speeding camera was cut down and dragged into a nearby pond. This after it was damaged twice in November.
We know speed cameras work in the area where they're placed, and in Toronto it's in community safety zones. Where they are placed, they reduce the number of crashes and the number of injuries.
Road safety advocate Albert Cole has been speaking out of the dangerous driving along Avenue Road for years, where 3 people have been killed over the last decade between Bloor and St. Clair.
We know that most people on this road speed, so you're talking not just 10 or 20 or even 30 or 40 kilometers over the speed limit. That's partly because of the way the road is designed.
Toronto police say they've received 7 reports of vandalized speed cameras, including the one they received on January 3rd about this one along Avenue Road. But the city says a dozen speed cameras have been damaged beyond repair. That was just last year. Toronto police says someone could face charges of mischief under or over $5,000, but so far there have been no arrests or charges laid in any investigation.
They should be found and have some consequences applied.
What do you think about automated speed enforcement cameras?
You know what? I'm in for it. I'm in favor. It's good. There's not enough manpower to monitor.
The city doesn't own the technology and says it's the vendor's responsibility to repair or replace a cost built into the contract. CBC Toronto reached out to the company but did not receive a response. There are currently 75 automated speed enforcement cameras in the city, with another 75 on the way this year. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
Toronto police have arrested and charged a man with second-degree murder 3 years after an Etobicoke shooting that left 2 people dead. It happened in the area of Lakeshore Boulevard West and 30th Street on January 3rd, 2022. When police got to the scene, they found 2 men with gunshot wounds and a woman with injuries. The woman survived, but both men died in hospital. Police announcing today they have arrested 34-year-old Philip Grant. He was wanted as part of the BOLO program, which lists the top 25 most wanted fugitives in Canada. Grant is now facing 2 counts of second-degree murder. Canada's premiers met again today as threats of tariffs from the incoming U.S. president continue to grow and as Parliament is prorogued. Premier Doug Ford is making his case to appease Donald Trump and lay out his vision for a stronger partnership between Ontario and the U.S. Lane Harrison is tracking the latest developments.
On February 12th, Ford and a group of other premiers will be traveling to Washington, D.C. to continue this fight against what potentially could be absolutely crushing 25% tariffs on Canadian goods brought in by President-elect Donald Trump. So on this meeting on the 12th, that'll be almost a month after Trump has taken office as the 47th president. And during this meeting, during this trip, a meeting with the White House is not actually part of the plan. They don't know if they'll be able to see the president. Ford said that'll be up to Trump, but they're going to be meeting with lawmakers there who Ford says will have the ear of Trump, trying to sway him that way. And as the leader of the Premier's Council, the Council of the Federation, Ford will be leading this delegation of leaders heading down south. But before that happens, there is going to be an in-person meeting between all the premiers and the Prime Minister in Ottawa next Wednesday. And at that meeting, they'll hash out a plan. And here's a little bit more of what Ford is hoping will come out of that meeting.
I know the premiers have a strong plan, but we want to see where the federal government stands right now. Keep in mind, the Prime Minister is still the Prime Minister, the Minister is still the Minister, and until that changes, we're going to make sure that we hold their feet to the fire and come out as a united country.
So Ford thinks that Trump is already getting his message. He says that he's spoken to people who know the president-elect who say that he's hearing this message through Ford's visits on American television and ads that are being shown down south that Canada and America should remain a strong trading partner. What Trump thinks of that message, Ford didn't say, but we heard Trump say yesterday in a press conference that he believes America doesn't need to trade anything with Canada, that they don't need anything from Canada, and that they can be self-sufficient. So we heard also from this meeting that the premiers discussed a list of items that could see retaliatory tariffs if these 25% tariffs do come in. But when it comes to what those items might be, Ford wanted to keep his cards close to the chest.
I don't think it's strategic for Canadians or Ontarians to hand out the list, and it gets right down to the U.S. government. If you can just bear with us, and let's see what happens on January the 20th. And we'll make sure we disclose the list after we see the tariffs that they're planning to put on Canada.
So earlier today, we were with Ford at the Darlington Energy Center, where he was also making a pitch that he hopes will help fight these tariffs. He was pitching an idea called the Fortress Can-Am, which would basically increase energy exports to the U.S. But some observers, one of which I spoke to, aren't convinced that this plan would do much.
The Premier Ford, may be miscalculating how much Trump cares about him or his ideas or energy for that matter. You get the sense that Trump doesn't want to buy anything from Canada, right? So I think going and pitching some kind of, we'll sell you more energy plan as long as you keep the tariffs at bay, I'm not sure that's going to fly.
So Kelda Ford was supposed to be on the American network CNN this evening to continue this fight, but that interview has been canceled because of the wildfires in California.
Arlene Harrison at Queen's Park. Today marks 5 years since the downing of Flight 752 in Iran, killing everyone on board. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau attending a ceremony in Richmond Hill today, marking the grim anniversary.
We need to make sure that no one ever forgets your loved ones. No one ever forgets what the Iranian regime did on that horrific morning 5 years ago.
The Ukraine Airlines passenger plane was shot down by 2 Iranian missiles shortly after taking off from Tehran. Canada, along with the UK, Sweden, and Ukraine, have vowed to hold Iran accountable. In North York last night, family members of the victims attended a vigil honoring the 176 lives lost in the tragedy.
It is something that it's too hard to believe, still too hard to believe. And so it looks like it was the first day. Even the first day was better because we were thinking that it has been something accidentally happening. But after that we understood what has really happened. So who can believe that?
55 Canadian citizens and 30 permanent residents died in the crash. Toronto's Tibetan community gathered together in prayer tonight as rescue efforts continue in Tibet following Tuesday's major earthquake. More than 100 people have been killed, and the death toll is expected to rise as many are still trapped under the rubble with time running out. Nama Weingarten has more.
With just a day's notice, hundreds from the Tibetan community gathered at their cultural center in Etobicoke to mourn the lives lost and pray for their loved ones back home.
We are very much concerned of how much of help our Tibetan brothers and sisters are getting in there in this situation. We want to help them, but we don't know. We don't have the resources and the power to help.
Tuesday's earthquake killed at least 126 people and injured nearly 200 more, while damaging thousands of homes. 400 people are reported to have been rescued from underneath the rubble, with an unknown number still unaccounted for.
So technically 99.9% Tibetans are Buddhist, and we believe in a reincarnation and a future life. So whoever died or passed away in this earthquake, so we are praying and hoping for speedy, swift rebirth, and also people who were injured and who's been affected by this earthquake.
Thousands of rescue workers have been deployed to save the people trapped under the rubble. But that operation could be a challenging one, says the founder of Toronto's Global Medic, a humanitarian relief organization that has assisted in disaster zones like this many times before.
So first of all, it's an isolated region and it's less populated. And because it's isolated, it means you got to get in by road or the one airport in the area. So you've got to send in specialty teams and rescuers and heavy equipment. There's only one airport, that's going to be difficult.
It was a 7.1 magnitude earthquake, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. Chinese state media said nearly 7,000 people live within 20 kilometers of the epicenter, just northeast of Mount Everest. And with temperatures dropping as low as -18 overnight, the clock is ticking to get more people out of the rubble.
Normally, if you have 2 or 3 days to save them, right, that shrinks because of the cold. So that's going to be harder as well. So this is going to be a very difficult operation.
And those from the Tibetan community tell us they're feeling helpless, not being able to fundraise and send resources to the region of Western China.
Right now, because of the Chinese restriction, there's no way we can send the money into Tibet, right, in the affected area. So that's why at this point we're just waiting and see, and we're not collecting the donation as well.
As rescue efforts continue, the community is planning a candlelight vigil this Sunday. Nama Weingarten, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. You might want to get used to these sub-zero temperatures we're experiencing today. Toronto is expected to stay frigid for the next few weeks. As a result, many shelters and warming centers around the city are operating at or near full capacity tonight. Greg Ross has more on the efforts to get unhoused people off the streets and out of the cold.
Knock, knock, anybody home?
These advocates for people living on Toronto streets spent the day going to encampments around the city, making sure people living there were safe.
Just checking in with people who are living outside to make sure that they have all the winter survival gear that they need, offering what we have as best as we can.
Because of the frigid temperatures last night, the city opened 2 emergency surge warming centers with a total of 60 extra beds.
So those surge sites become available when the weather hits -15.
City of Toronto spokesperson Elise Von Schiel says those centers are no longer available, with temperatures now back above -15. But the city does have 5 other warming centers that are still available for people in need.
Warming centers are walk-in, so people are welcome to come in, and if there's no space at the particular location that they've come to, we help facilitate transportation to another area that has space.
With shelter beds in short supply, advocates wonder why the city doesn't just keep the surge centers open even if temperatures are above -15.
We know that whether it's -15 or -13, it is still cold. And so the fact that they've closed the surge sites, to me, is completely egregious. Also, when they say that they're going to refer people elsewhere, we know that the shelter is full. We know that warming centers are basically at capacity. So where are they referring people to? Checking the socks here.
And while it may not be as cold tonight, it is still expected to drop down to -12, and it will feel much colder with the wind chill.
So you get any kind of a little breeze, and it makes that cold be very threatening and lethal in some cases.
Well, that report was from our Greg Ross. 4 wildfires continue to rage out of control in the Los Angeles area. Thousands of residents have escaped from burning homes amid powerful winds and giant plumes of smoke. At least 5 people have been killed and more than 1,000 structures destroyed. And approximately 70,000 people are now under evacuation orders. Belle Puri has more.
It's a hurricane of fire. The winds are powerful, the flames are ferocious. The rush to safety is crucial.
There were flames on either side of us. The car was very quickly getting smoky. We had wet towels over our faces.
Multiple fires across some of California's most exclusive neighborhoods are 0% under control.
We watched the mountain go, and we tried to, watch the embers come, and there wasn't many of them until houses down here started catching. And then it started coming over to this block. And tell you, I've been here 47 years. I grew up on this block. I saw the other altitude fires, and it was nothing like this.
The largest of the fires broke out Tuesday morning near Pacific Palisades. 30,000 people have been forced from their homes.
We got in the car to go, and then all the cars were abandoned, so I had nowhere to go, so I just had to get out of my car and start walking. The smoke is so bad.
Up to 10,000 households and 13,000 structures are threatened.
There's trees down that have crushed cars and on top of houses, and the fire line's 8 blocks from our home.
California has declared a state of emergency.
The National Weather Service has predicted a continued red flag weather event with strong winds and low humidities, placing all residents of Los Angeles County in danger.
The fires were sparked by a combination of dry conditions and dangerously high-speed winds.
Prolonged droughts have meant that the ecosystems are primed for fire, and when you get hot, dry, windy conditions plus an ignition, the Santa Ana winds blow from the desert towards the ocean, and they carry with them fires when they do start.
By midday, the Los Angeles fires had already burned nearly 93 square kilometers of property, and the winds and flames show no signs of letting up. Belle Puri, CBC News, Vancouver.
Colette is here with a check on the forecast. And Colette, yeah, it's pretty cold out there, and there's going to be more cold days to come.
Yeah,
it's winter though. So.
Exactly. I mean, that is the point. We are into it. Now today, of course, the temperature's a little bit below seasonal actually. So if we take a look at those daytime highs, and I know I feel a little sheepish saying highs because they certainly weren't very warm, but -7 for Toronto. Seasonal would be closer to about -2 for a high. So that's kind of put it in perspective. And last night we were down to almost -13 and feeling like -22 when you factor those wind chills in. So the winds will be easing a little bit. We take a look at that upper air pattern to kind of give us clues as to what's going on. One thing we know certainly is that ridge of high pressure driving the Santa Anas is really enhanced by the area of low pressure. So you see that kind of dip that we're getting in those upper air pattern there as we look at these thicknesses. And then if I take your attention a little bit closer to the Great Lakes and closer to home, a little ridging means we're going to get into a bit of sunshine for tomorrow. So kind of a break before this next trough comes in and brings us a system that moves in. So that's Friday into Saturday morning with some light snow that will be coming through the area. And then we get kind of a leveling off for a few days. So the temperatures come up a bit and we get a bit of a reprieve so that we'll see those daytime highs around freezing. Just be aware, by the end of the weekend, there's some very cold air again to the northwest of us. And by about Tuesday of next week, that drops back in. So we'll get back into conditions that feel a bit like we had last night and certainly through the day today. But those squalls coming off of Lake Huron, Georgian Bay, those backing off as we go into Thursday. Quite a bit of sunshine coming out. A few areas may have a little cloud cover to start. Then we get into the sun. And then by Friday, this next system is moving in. So southwestern Ontario getting that into the afternoon hours, getting into some of that light snow into the city later on Friday and even lingering into Saturday morning. So think 2 to maybe 5, 6 centimeters through the region. Our overnight temperatures for tonight, here we go, down to -12. Feeling like about -19. Windsor -10 to -12 for southwestern Ontario through that region. That's what you can anticipate. So, of course, that means a cool start to the day tomorrow. Needing to be dressed appropriately, make sure the kids are headed out the door with everything they need as well. By tomorrow afternoon, a little better than today. Toronto climbing to -4 with that sunshine coming on through and the winds backing off. And then this is what I mean by some milder temperatures. You know, it's all relative. As we go into Friday and the weekend, daytime highs closer to freezing, but that system could slow you down if you've got plans to get away Friday night or into Saturday morning. So just be aware of that.
At least there's some sun in there as well, right?
Yeah, it's really looking nice for tomorrow.
Thanks so much, Colette. That's all the time we have tonight. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.